My name is Rebecca Lowell, and I am with the Library of Congress Veteran History Project. Bellevue University is a sponsor of the Nebraska Vietnam Veteran Memorial Foundation. I am here at Bellevue University Military Service Center with U.S. Navy veteran James Force, who has agreed to share his story for the History Project and the Foundation. James, let's begin with your full name and where you were born.
Name is James Harold Force, and I was born in Millville, New Jersey.
Okay. Did you grow up there in Millville?
I did grow up in Millville, yes.
Tell me about your family.
I had 3 sisters, younger, half a brother who was also younger. My father was a manager of a A&P store, grocery store. We had, in my later school years, we owned 4 horses, which I was responsible for taking care of. We enjoyed riding, and I enjoyed swimming and outdoor type stuff.
Okay. Now, before joining the military, were you in college or were you working?
No, I was working odd jobs.
Okay. Tell me about when you went into the military. Were you drafted or did you volunteer?
I volunteered. Actually, I was hanging out in a teen hangout with some other friends, and a friend of mine came in and said, "Guess what I did today?" And I said, "Well, what'd you do?" And he said, "I joined the Navy." I said, "Oh," I said, "You know what? If I'd known you were going to do that, I'd have gone with you." And he said, "Well, we can go talk to my recruiter tomorrow and see what happens." So the next day we went up and see the recruiter, and I filled out some paperwork and talked to my parents, and my father was fine with it. My mother wasn't too happy, of course, but anyway, within probably about a week I was in San Diego at 5 o'clock in the morning wondering what I was doing there. So that was, there was no lengthy thoughts about the military. I just up and went.
Why did you choose the military?
Well, it was given me an opportunity to travel. I always enjoyed traveling when I was younger, and I figured that'd probably be the best way to do it.
Okay. Who did you leave behind when you went to San Diego?
My family, sisters, mother, father.
Okay. And then you went to boot camp in San Diego?
Yes, I did.
And then what other kind of advanced training did you have?
I went to A school for my rating, personnelman. And then from there I went to survival school in San Diego and on to Vietnam.
Okay. What would you say was the best part of your training, of any of it, boot camp or?
Graduation was probably the best part.
What was the hardest thing to adjust to?
The military itself, getting up, doing my own laundry, which was especially challenging. We didn't have, our laundry consisted of a bucket, a scrub brush, and small pieces of line. They call them clothes stops. And we had a nice big concrete table in the rear of the barracks, and you would take your whites or your dungarees and your bucket and your scrub brush, and that's how you did your laundry. And then they had clotheslines, and you would take your little clothes stops and tie your clothes to this clothesline with a square knot, of course, and that was your laundry.
All right. Do any of your instructors stand out?
Our recruit company commander was Signalman Chief Petty Officer by the name of Neil Rollins. He was fair. He was not really hard, but he was firm. He did have us do a couple of things which I don't think were normal. A couple of guys were caught with their hands in their work jacket pockets. So that evening, everybody was tasked with sewing their work jacket pockets to where you couldn't get your hands in them. And then another time, an individual failed a locker inspection. So we were given the opportunity to purchase 6 sets of skivvies, underwear, t-shirts, undershorts. They were all the same size. We went out, we washed them all, folded them neatly, and they went in our lockers, and they were used only for locker inspections.
That sounds like fun.
It was.
Okay. When did you find out you were going to Vietnam?
When I was just about to graduate from A school.
Okay. When did you arrive in country?
April of '64.
Okay. Where were you stationed at?
I was stationed at Headquarters Support Activities, Saigon.
Okay. Were you combat support, or combat service?
No, neither one. We're basically, well, I guess you would say combat support.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, our command handled all the pay coming into country and a lot of the supply type things coming in country. My job actually was issuing ration cards to newly arrived personnel, and I did identification cards, and then educational services.
Okay.
But we would go to, at that time it was MAG, Vietnam Military Assistance Advisory Group, and we would be there for the briefings for incoming personnel, then we would issue their ration cards.
Okay. Did you form any special friendships over there? Or?
I did have a couple of good friends that were there. Both of them, of course, were PNs in the office, but his name was Larry Teague and Max Bunn. Max Bunn was a senior to us, but he was a good friend and a good mentor.
Did you keep in touch with them since then?
No, unfortunately, I haven't.
Okay. When you weren't working, what kind of things did you do?
Wasn't a whole lot to do. Basically, just hung out. Maybe had a couple beers once in a while, but that was about all. Once in a while, go to a movie.
Okay. Do you recall any particularly funny or unusual events that might have happened?
The first little experience I had was there was a Navy auxiliary aircraft carrier that was had an explosive device planted and sunk in the Vietnam River, and I was tasked with some other people to go and tighten down the watertight hatch to control flooding and security for that until the Navy could get it refloated and then towed out of Saigon. And then I had another duty when I was first there were still military dependents in Vietnam. So one of my jobs was to ride shotgun on a school bus for the dependent children, and we would be with a Vietnamese police officer and provide security for the dependent children.
Wow.
And then when the president decided that they had to get the dependents out, I was a member of a joint service team that processed dependents out of Vietnam.
Okay. And then, do you recall, did you or somebody else talk about or do anything for good luck or protection or anything, or did you feel pretty safe the whole time?
We felt fairly safe most of the time. I can't remember anybody doing anything special for good luck superstitions. It was, when I was there, it was fairly quiet. Things hadn't built up as much as they did later on, so.
And when did you get there?
April '64.
April '64, okay. And then, what would you think was the best part of your wartime experience?
Just getting to see the country, what parts of it we could see around Saigon, and just getting to know some of the people and their culture and traditions.
Okay. Do you recall when you were told you were returning to stateside?
Well, I was transferred from Saigon in September '65, to the USS Midway, and the Midway was finishing up a deployment to the Western Pacific. So I caught the Midway on the way back to the States.
Wow. And then when you got back to the States,
Mm-hmm.
how was your reception?
Fairly quiet. We didn't see a lot of demonstrators, being we're on a carrier and we're, Naval Air Station Alameda. But there weren't a lot of cheering people. We were pretty much ignored if out in town in uniform. Not too much was said to us.
Okay. So what did you do after you got back from Vietnam?
I was on the Midway until I think March of 1966, and then the Midway was decommissioned for some modernization work, and excuse me, I transferred to the USS Coral Sea.
Okay, so you stayed in the Navy.
I stayed in, yes.
And how long did you stay in the Navy?
20 years.
20 years in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
What would you think was your favorite place to be?
Probably California was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans was pretty good. I was stationed there for a while.
Okay, and did you get married while on active duty?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where did you raise children? Did you?
Yes, we raised 4 sons and a daughter.
Wow.
And actually 2 stepsons, and it was kind of hers, mine, and ours.
That's okay.
So,
did you use your GI Bill or anything to further your education?
the only part of the GI Bill I used is I took a small engine repair course. One time I used the GI Bill with that, but other than that, no.
Okay. And then, so you got back, you spent 20 years in the Navy, and then what happened when you retired?
I went to work for the Postal Service and carried mail for 20 years.
I think I knew that because you have the 4-digit tag on your zip code. Okay. And so now you're retired from that as well.
Yes, yes.
What's the best part of retirement?
Retirement. Every day's a holiday.
Okay. Did you continue any of your military friendships after you left the service?
No, I pretty much lost touch with everybody. Some guys went north and some guys went south and east and west, got scattered all around. So no, I haven't really had too much contact.
Okay. Did you stay personnel your whole time? Did you
Yes.
do anything different?
No, I stayed personnel the whole time.
Okay. Did you think your military service affected the way you dealt with other things, other people?
Yeah, I think the military, in the first place, helps you grow up, and realize that the world doesn't revolve around you. And it teaches you responsibility. Teaches you how to interact with other people. And explains how other people's upbringing was related to yours.
Okay. Did you join any veterans organizations?
Initially, I was a member of the American Legion and Veterans of Foreign Wars for a while.
Okay. No more, huh? And then, do you attend any reunions or anything? Like, did you go to the Vietnam Veterans reunion?
No, I
recently?
haven't. I did. Well, I did. We took a Hawaii cruise one time with Norwegian, and they had a veterans reunion on board, which was really nice.
That's nice. Okay, then, what would you think were, like you have photos and stuff here. Can you tell me what kind of awards and stuff you received?
Well, I received, of course, a Good Conduct Medal, reason for the gold on the sleeve. National Defense Service Medal, which just about everybody got. Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal for Vietnam service. Navy Unit Commendation 3 times. And then we had Vietnam Campaign, Vietnam Service Medals.
Okay. Do you think that your feelings about war in general have been affected because of your service?
No. I think sometimes it's necessary. You can't just lay back and let somebody else take care of you. There are times when you're threatened, such as 9/11, that you have to answer to that.
Absolutely. Do you consider yourself a patriot?
Yes.
How would you describe patriotism?
I love my country. I decided to serve my country, and I love the flag. Salute the flag when necessary. I don't kneel.
Do you stand up when you hear anchors away?
Generally, yes, I do.
Okay. Have you received services from the Veterans Administration?
Yes, I have.
And
Yeah.
do you think you didn't get any immediately when you got back from Vietnam?
No, no.
No. When did you start your with the VA?
Just within about the last 5 years or so.
Have you noticed any changes in the last 5 years?
It all seems like it's improving. I haven't had any problems with appointments or anything. I think they're doing really well.
Okay. When we serve in the military, I know we find funny stories, or we hear things that lore and stuff like that. Now, your last name is Force.
Mm-hmm.
How was that in the military?
When Star Wars came out, I got a lot of Star Wars type "Force be with you," that kind of thing.
So somebody had a pay problem. Did they say use the Force?
Once in a while, I heard that. Yes.
Okay. Do you recall other people having funny things about them that were encouraging?
No, not really. I can't think of any right offhand. I probably could if I, dwelled on it for a while, but not right offhand.
Okay. If a future generation, your great-grandchildren, say, look at this video, what would you want them to know?
I want them to know that I willingly served my country. I was proud of my service, and I think that any young person would benefit from military service.
Okay. And then from your personal story, what would you want them to know?
Well, I decided to take a chance and join the military and see the world and find out what I could find. I enjoyed traveling. I enjoyed going with the military. Sometimes when you were on the board of ship and getting ready to deploy, for 6 months or whatever, it was kind of hard to leave your family, But once you got underway and got busy doing things, it helped time pass kind of quick. You weren't always just out cruising around. Most of your work was accomplished when you were at sea because there were no outside influences, There was no thing to do other than work, So you used that opportunity to catch up on stuff that you really couldn't get caught up when you were in port and trying to go on leave or whatever you had. So that was the main thing that you accomplished at work. And then pulling into various ports and meeting other people, seeing other sites, I always wanted to see Europe, which I got some chance to see, and South America, the Philippines, naturally, been Navy. So I just really enjoyed going, as far as work aspect went, and getting a chance to travel and meet people.
Did your wife work while you were on
Yes, she did, yes.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
what would be your favorite port?
Probably, I think I liked Palma, Mallorca, and outside of Rome, we were in for about a week, and that was really a nice port. We got to travel and see Rome 3 or 4 days, so you could do a lot of sightseeing in that amount of time, and it was really neat. So.
Okay. Has there been an experience, a military experience that you have that you've never talked about that you'd like to share now?
No, not that I can think of. Everything as far as wartime service, like I said, we were a support activity. So a few times there were threats of possible bombing, or there might be a bomb located. And we're in what they call a compound, and they'd say, oh, there might be a bomb at the rear of the compound or something like that. Or there was a coup when I was in Vietnam, when Cal Key took over. So, and at that time, you're not really sure what's going on. You don't know who you can trust. Actually, in Vietnam, you didn't really know at any time who you could really trust, because it wasn't people in uniform that you were involved with. So it once in a while it'd get kind of hairy when you didn't know what was going to happen.
Okay. Did you find the military to be necessary in Vietnam?
Yeah, I wasn't sorry I went. Of course, I was always of the belief when you're given orders, you go. So you don't really have that opportunity to make a choice. You're there, you're serving, you put your name on the dotted line, and you went. I think we made a lot of mistakes over there, naturally, but I've never regretted going.
Okay. If you're talking to a young person today who's considering joining the military, what do you think? What are your feelings when they go away?
It's kind of hard to let them go, but also it gives you a little bit of pride that they've decided to go in and try out the military.
Did any of your children join the military?
My son, youngest son, or two of my sons did actually.
Okay.
One Army, and then one also went into the Navy for a while.
Nice. And are they still in?
No, they didn't make it a career.
Okay. And then they went to college and stuff when they got back, or?
No, that's went into the workforce. One was a long haul truck driver for a while, and the other worked for Kellogg's making cereal. So,
Okay. How did you end up in Omaha?
I was with Navy Recruiting District in Peoria, Illinois, and assigned to the entrance processing station in Chicago. And the Navy decided that they were going to decommission the recruiting district in Peoria. And my detailer, order writing authority, called me and said, I have a choice for you. He said, you can go to Detroit or you can go to Omaha. And I said, that's not really a choice, I'll go to Omaha. So here I am.
Was there any thoughts of going back to New Jersey?
Well, it's kind of crowded back in New Jersey. I've got family there still, and I miss the family, but I kind of got used to the more open spaces out here. So, and of course, the children were going to school, and they wanted to graduate with their classes here in Nebraska. So that was another factor for staying.
Was your wife here in Nebraska while you were elsewhere?
Well, she was with me in Florida when I was assigned to a ship in Florida, and then basically since we've been together, that's about the only time we've been apart was when I was in the ship in Florida, and otherwise we've been here. She's the second marriage. So
okay, all right. And what would you think if somebody saw your story? What is the thing you would most want them to remember?
Well, I think that I gave the military a shot, and I enjoyed my service. Some days were better than other days, and some days I had doubts as to whether or not I wanted to stay in, and some days it was great, and some days it wasn't so great. But all in all, I'm glad I stayed in, especially for the benefits I still have.
Okay, so you're getting full retirement benefits
Yes.
then?
Yeah.
Okay. Any disability benefits?
Yes.
Okay. If somebody walks up to you on the street and you've got your hat on that says Navy veteran, okay, what are some of the things you want people to know about veterans? Veterans personally and veterans in general?
We're people. We decided to enlist, or we got drafted, and we did our time in service, whether it was 2 years or 20 years or 30 years. We're not baby killers. We're not trained baby killers. We have feelings just like everybody else. We just decided that somebody had to go, and we were going to do it.
Okay. Can you compare when you came back from Vietnam and the treatment you received to the people who have come back from like Desert Storm or Afghanistan? Do you think it's better, worse?
It's a lot better. Vietnam, if they saw you at all or spoke to you at all, it was usually sarcastic or a snide remark or derision, but there's more support for the current veterans.
Okay. Have you attended an honor flight?
No, I have not.
Are you looking for one?
Not right away. I'll let the other guys go. There's still some people I think should go
Okay.
and have their chance.
Okay. And you did take the cruise one time, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Okay. When now you said you're no longer part of the American Legion or the VFW.
Yeah.
Do you still attend events there, or?
Not really, no. I got gotten away from it, and no.
Okay. How do you feel about the Library of Congress taking this opportunity to allow the Vietnam veterans to share their story?
I think it's a good idea to let future generations and my generation get familiar with our stories and what we've done and gone through and accomplished. So I think it's a really good idea.
Okay. So, when you're, do you have? I noticed you've got some photos here. Can you talk about some of these photos?
Sure.
Let's hold them up for us.
This was when I was in Vietnam. This was awarded a Navy Unit Commendation Ribbon for working on the United States ship Card that was blown up in Saigon River.
Wow.
So this was our commanding officer. So I was a screaming seaman at the time. And then I just had some pictures of the various ships I've been on. This is a picture of the USS Midway aircraft carrier.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see those too well or not.
People can zoom, it's no problem.
Then we had USS Carl C, which was a sister ship to the USS Midway. That's a CVA-43. They're no longer the Midway's museum ship in San Diego now, so it'd be cool to visit. This was the USS Puget Sound. It was a destroyer tender I served on. We have USS Forrest Sherman. At the time I was on, it was supposedly one of the last 5-gun destroyers in the Navy.
Wow.
This was the USS Brumby. It was what is called a fast frigate, a destroyer escort, basically. And the USS Charles F. Adams, which was a guided missile destroyer. So.
Wow. So that's impressive. Would you say you've had more ships, or less ships, or about the same amount of ships of other people in the Navy?
Probably a little bit more ships. My occupational specialty generally spent 3 years at sea and 4 years ashore. So other occupations like, say, a boiler technician or gas turbine system technician would spend more like 5 years at sea and fewer years ashore, just because of their job.
What they do. Okay. Okay, do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share for your fellow comrades, your family?
I just think that, I might have said before, that I think the military is a good experience for any young person. It's a wake-up call into the adult world. You know, you're not pampered. It teaches you responsibility and helps you grow up. And I think it's beneficial. I don't think it hurts anyone. And it's a chance. I think everybody should serve their country. I remember when after 9/11 they started drafting people. I saw comments from a woman who wrote and said that she didn't think her son should have to serve in the military because he was extremely intelligent and he had a lot of potential. And I think that was a very selfish and ignorant thing to say, because does that mean somebody was not as high intelligence should have to serve, or doesn't have as much potential, let the let the poor people go and serve. I
Yeah.
think that's wrong. I think everybody should serve at least once in their, one time.
Okay. Speaking of 9/11, we're about to come up on the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. I know I enjoyed the flux of patriotism that was demonstrated, the unity of the country. Do you recall where you were when that happened?
I
Or
was
how you found about it?
sorting mail at the post office in Omaha.
Okay. I know that I was in North Dakota at the time, and I was with a bunch of non-military people in my office, and somebody said, "I'm so glad we live in North Dakota."
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I know how many missiles are out here in these fields. We're no
Yeah.
safer than anybody else.
Yeah.
But I thought that for me, there was a general unity of patriotism and support. Did you find that where you were?
I think so, yeah. Actually, one of the residents on my mail route was a professor who was quite familiar with Afghanistan, and he was kind of concerned about me delivering packages and said that, you might want to use a little more caution when delivering packages here, because since he was so familiar with the country, he was and he was providing information to the military. So he was kind of concerned about possibly having something happen.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to share that you haven't?
No, I think that's about it. Can't think of anything else.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for taking this time to share your story for the Library of Congress and the Vietnam Memorial.
Thank you. I hope it was semi-intelligent.
It was awesome, and it was your story. Thank you.
Thank you.